Canadians are polite.
Polite?
Canadians are humble.
They say we're reserved.
Aye! Oh! Let's go! Aye!
Reserved.
Oh, let's go!
Canadians are passive.
I don't think so.
Aye! Oh! Let's go! Aye!
I am Canadian.
Hey, I'm not a lumberjack or a fur trader, and I don't live in an igloo or eat blubber or own a dog sled, and I don't know Jimmy, Sally, or Susie from Canada, although I'm certain they're really, really nice. I have a prime minister, not a president. I speak English and French, not American, and I pronounce it about, not about. I can proudly sew my country's flag on my backpack. I believe in peacekeeping, not policing. Diversity, not assimilation, and that the beaver is a truly proud and noble animal. A toque is a hat, a Chesterfield is a coat, and it is pronounced Z, not Z-Z. Canada is the second largest landmass, the first nation of hockey, and the best part of North America. My name is Joe, and I am Canadian.
Hello and welcome to everything you wanted to know about Canada but were afraid to ask. Canada. We are a large northern landmass, and by and large we have enjoyed 141 years of peace, order and good government. And our official summer sport is lacrosse. Basically, that's all you need to know.
Canada and the United States share another unique quality. They're immigrant nations, destinations for people around the world who long for political freedoms, economic opportunity, and a long tradition of compassion. In a snapshot, Canada is a huge country, second largest in the world next to Russia. But its population is only about a tenth the size of the United States, 34 million, split into 10 provinces and 3 territories. 90% of Canadians live within 100 miles of the U.S. border, residing in world-class cities, thriving farms and smaller towns. With good reason. Life in the Canadian North is only for the hardy.
West of downtown, wedged into the Baldwin district, is Chinatown. There are 6 Chinese quarters in Toronto today. The Chinatown in the city center already took shape as early as 1935. Then, it was populated by immigrants who arrived from the northern part of China. Today, the residents are mostly Chinese people originating from Hong Kong. Chinatown is the same here as anywhere else in the world, as if it were the set of Roman Polanski's movie, Chinatown. There are many clothing stores, gift shops, small groceries, and laundries here. Shop owners often live above their shops. The typical smell of diners and cheap eateries infuses the streets. All signs are in Chinese. In fact, the residents of Chinatown have their own Chinese language newspaper. They celebrate their ethnic holidays, such as the Chinese New Year, with firecrackers, fireworks, and a spectacular parade of huge dragon figures. Not far from here are the historic neighborhoods of Old Yorktown, Koreatown, Greektown, Indian Bazaar, Little Poland, Portugal Village, and Yorkville, the former hippie center. All of these districts are miniature living mirror images of the faraway motherlands.
I'm honoured to be here and to speak on behalf of Andrew Bolt, not because I always see eye to eye with Andrew. In fact, he attacked me over something or other a couple of years back. I can't remember what the hell it was now. It's amazing how quickly these things fade away if you don't bring the courts into it. What Andrew's undergoing is something very familiar to me because it happened to me in Canada when I fell afoul of the tolerance enforcers and diversity compliance regulators in the same way that Andrew has. Why is this happening? Because in some of the oldest free societies on the planet, we've entirely corrupted the concept of human rights. It's not very difficult. Human rights are rights for humans, rights for individuals. Back in 1215, Magna Carta Libertatum, to give it its full title, couldn't have made it plainer. Real human rights are restraints that the people place upon the king. We understood that 8 centuries ago. Today, we've entirely perverted and corrupted the principle. We're undermining real human rights like freedom of speech and replacing them with ersatz rights that, rather than restraining the king, give him vastly increased state power to restrain the rights of his subjects. It's an abomination and it's explicitly Orwellian because these new rights are not handed out equally, but in different ways and to different degrees according to which approved identity groups you fall into. Orwell in Animal Farm. All animals are equal, but some animals are more equal than others. That's the system we've erected in Australia, in Europe, in North America. If you belong to privileged groups, the state affords you rights it does not extend to others. The British Columbia Human Rights Tribunal held a week-long trial of my writing, including a day devoted to the, quote, tone of my jokes, for which they flew in expert witnesses from Philadelphia and Toronto. Having made themselves a laughingstock in that case, the tribunal decided to go one better just a couple of weeks ago and fine a stand-up comedian $15,000 for his put-down of 2 hecklers. Unfortunately for him, they were hecklers of the lesbian persuasion, and so his put-downs were deemed homophobic. If Andrew and I had been heckling him and he'd been equally abusive to us, we'd have had no grounds for going to court because we're not members of any identity group enjoying collective rights. Neither Andrew nor I are lesbian. So we now have the situation where a joke or a song is a criminal act according to whom you perform it in front of. It's not merely ridiculous, it strikes at the heart of one of the bedrock principles of justice, equality before the law.
You know, I don't really refer to myself as an anti-racist activist because, frankly, I don't think there's that much racism in Canada. I think we're one of the most harmonious countries in the world. But when I look at institutionalized systemic racism, I find it in government agencies like the Human Rights Commission. And joining me today to help root out the racism and entrenched institutional bigotry at the Ontario Human Rights Commission is my friend Chris Schaefer. You've been on the show many times. Tell us who you represent.
Canadian Constitution Foundation. We are lawyers that litigate for liberty.
That's pretty succinct. Now, Chris, you heard my rant about the Ontario Human Rights Commission. Just in June, they were hunting through Craigslist and Kijiji. Those are online classified ads. And if someone said no pets allowed or female roommate wanted, that said, oh, that's discriminatory. Yes. But now that we have proof that there are 32 apartments for rent in Ontario that says Muslims only, all of a sudden the Human Rights Commission doesn't want to implement their law. Now, I'm against anyone forcing a landlord to take a roommate they don't want. But what does this say about the Human Rights Commissions and the fact that this, I mean, I think it just, to me, it proves that there's some races that are allowed to discriminate, but others that aren't.
Yeah.
That is the Zellers store in the Côte de Neige Plaza. It's the 6th of June, 2012. It is closing any day now. They've had a big clear-out sale. Zellers has been in Canada for decades. It is illegal in Canada for Zellers to hire only white people. They are considered racist if they tried to do so. They must hire multicultural. Yet right across the mall over here we have Marché Futai. It's a Korean grocer. They have floor space about the size of Zellers. Every single staff member is Korean. They hire no black, no white, no French, no English, no Russian, no Pakistani, nobody but Korean. How come that is not considered illegal and racist in Canada? Essentially, the policy is directed towards eliminating the white race from its own culture. It is directed towards saying, you, because you are white, have no right to associate with the people of your own race and culture if you wish to. If you do so, you're a racist. However, people of other cultures can set up stores where they associate only with people of their own race and culture, and that, I suppose, is ethnic multiculturalism.
Multiculturalism is, and you brought that up in reference to Quebec, because it is a part and parcel of what Canada is, and what you say is part and parcel of what is wrong with Canada to a great extent. Can you articulate to people who haven't heard you talk about it before why multiculturalism in your I don't know whether you've used the word fraud, but I don't think it's far from what you think.
No, I think it is. I mean, I'm basically not in any doubt that most people, given the choice, want to live in an advanced Western society. That's why the immigration movements are from Yemen to Europe. There's not a lot of Scandinavians who want to live in Yemen. Even leftists who profess to believe in multiculturalism use the term the developing world. In other words, their assumption, even when they talk about these countries, is that they're developing towards something closer to Europe or North America. So I think the idea that all these cultures are equal and equally valid isn't true. There's one particular relatively narrow form of civilizational inheritance that delivers greater prosperity, greater opportunity, better health, better opportunities for you to live your full human potential than any other society. So to essentially pretend that there's no difference is
Who gets to be the arbiter over which are more equal than others, though?
Well, that's the point, isn't it? I think multiculturalism arises from the who are we to say that the common law inheritance of Canada is better than the tribal law of this particular patch of jungle in the middle of nowhere. We feel bad about saying that. So instead we pretend that it's everything is all the same and everything is equal. But it's not equal. The fact is that common law is a better form of justice than Islamic law as practiced in Saudi Arabia. And there shouldn't be anything wrong with saying that.
But if somebody comes back at you after saying that and says, that is an opinion, back that up with fact, how do you argue that?
Well, actually, oddly enough, when you do back it up with facts, when you point out, for example, that if you're a woman and you're raped in many Islamic countries, you get punished. You get punished. You are the one who has brought dishonor on your family. The victim gets punished. So you bring up facts like that, you bring up the lack of women's rights in Islamic countries or whatever, and then people say, well, that's just your opinion.
Of Sharia courts, Islamic tribunals, if you will, to take root inside the provincial secular legal system. No other Western jurisdiction has taken this step, but under the 1991 Arbitration Act, Sharia-based marriage, divorce, and family tribunals run by the Islamic Institute of Civil Justice are expected to begin soon. Many Muslim women are outraged, vowing to fight the system they see as having no place in a secular society. Equally upset are those who demand that church and state never be allowed to merge. Supporters say the opposition to Sharia is battling non-existent demons, and given time, the system will complement, not destroy, human rights and freedoms. The debate rages on and continues on this show as well, because joining us today is Javed Mirza, the president of the Hamilton Muslim Association and a supporter of the Sharia courts. Also, Homa Arjuman, the coordinator of the campaign against Sharia in Canada, and Sheena Sharp of the Humanist Association of Canada. Sheena, let's begin with you. I always thought there was only one set of laws for all people in this country. How can the province allow another set to apply to a minority who have a different culture and follow another faith?
Well, I think that actually part of the problem here is that the province hasn't particularly done that. And some of the problem is that the Islamic Institute has said that the Sharia court will be mandatory for Muslims and that there is no appeal, when that is not actually the case. And so they are scaring people into believing that something has happened that hasn't. It's their responsibility to come forward and describe the actual law and what the Sharia court, if you will, can do and can't do.
Can I interact on this thing and say a few words on this?
Go ahead.
I find that very difficult. I'm a Muslim, and I find this very difficult to understand what is the major league issue about this Sharia law. This has been in works for quite some time. A lot of the other cultures are using their laws, just like the natives are, and some of the Abrahamic religions are using the same rules and regulations that their religion allows them to. So what seems to be the issue with the Muslims? I mean, I don't understand which basis or which point my colleague is trying to say here.
All right, let's ask Homa. Let me ask Homa. Do you think why are Muslim women particularly vocal in opposing Sharia?
Well, Sharia is anti-woman.
Why is Sharia anti-woman?
Wait, let her finish, Javed, please.
Okay.
Go ahead, Homa.
Yes, to me, Sharia is anti-woman. I come from Iran, where the Islamic State is there. To me, Sharia considers women second-class citizens, and no matter what, the right is not there. It belongs to 1400 years ago. It's not for 20 or end of 20th century. We have to somehow stop it. We are fighting for separation of religion, especially Sharia code, from our justice system.
Now, we have another major story for you tonight. CBC News has learned that a man associated with the Toronto 18 terror group was able to sneak out of Canada undetected, travel to Syria, and fight alongside extremists. Senior correspondent Adrienne Arsenault broke this story, and she picks it up from here. Adrienne.
So, Peter, the list of Canadians who've gone overseas to wage jihad is growing. There are new names and faces emerging almost every day, and accounts of some of their deaths are filtering back to us, even though Canada's Department of Foreign Affairs insists it has no official information on the deaths of any Canadians in Syria.
Summer 2006. Canadian law enforcement round up 18 young Muslims. Many of them children.
The biggest anti-terrorism case in Canada.
This group took steps to acquire components necessary to create explosive devices using ammonium nitrate, which is a commonly used fertilizer. 3 tons of ammonium nitrate was ordered by these individuals and delivered to them. It was their intent to use it for a terrorist attack.
No comment.
No comments. The young men are branded as homegrown terrorists by Canada's spy agency CSIS and the RCMP.
In an emerging plot that eventually included attacks on prominent Canadians, Parliament, the Toronto Stock Exchange, and the CBC.
Charges for half of the adult suspects include intending to cause an explosion. All of them are charged with belonging to a terrorist group.
An Ontario teacher is speaking out after an unusual complaint of student abuse started a nightmare that's still not over. Susan Towell has faced 2 investigations that says she didn't do anything wrong. She's now decided to go public with her story. Kathy Tomlinson has the details.
Something is terribly wrong here.
Substitute teacher Susan Dowell says she was floored when she was pulled from class and sent home, told she was under investigation.
I just was, shocked and confused, and everything's running through your head as to what possibly could be going on.
Earlier, she had told a grade 5 boy not to throw away his uneaten banana. He went home that night and complained.
Story that the parent heard and later told the administration at the school was that I had him go into the garbage, take out a squishy banana and eat garbage, basically.
That sparked a full-blown investigation. Other students who had challenged Dowell in class then said she'd abused them too. The school called child welfare authorities.
You're told that police could come to your door at any moment. And what do you tell your family and friends? It's a horrible situation to be in.
After a month off work, borrowing to pay bills, Dowell was cleared of any wrongdoing. She now thinks accusers who lie or exaggerate should face consequences.
The children who do make false allegations, what happens to them in the end?
School boards don't keep track of unfounded complaints, but we're now hearing from several other teachers who say this happened to them too.
It's almost like we're overreacting.
This education professor studied false allegation cases. He believes some students have learned they can wield power like never before.
You can yell and make false accusations, scream about a teacher, tell untruths, and nothing happens. Isn't that a wonderful role model?
Dowell is back at work, but still facing a mandatory probe by her school board. She says her confidence as a teacher is shaken for good. Kathy Tomlinson, CBC News, Vancouver.